Hey, Michelle Vodrazka. Vodrazka, strong name.
Strong woman.
Well, you know what? In fact, she used to be a bodybuilder, so there you go.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, among other things, she's a personal coach. She's a nutrition expert, and she self-published her own cookbook.
Really?
Yep.
Well, we should go and meet her.
Yeah.
You feeling a little intimidated by this strong
Just
woman?
thought I'd grab a piece of pizza while you were talking to her, but I guess I could join you.
I think you should.
All right, I
You
guess
ready?
I'm going to. Yeah.
You guys are always ready. Let's
go.
Michelle.
Hey, how are you? Michelle Vodrazka, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are a nutritionist and an author.
Yes.
And you wear several hats, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm also a personal trainer, yoga instructor, spinning instructor, Pilates instructor. There's a whole bunch.
Did you say spitting instructor?
Spinning?
All right. So how did you get started doing all this?
Oh, I mean, I've been athletic my whole life. My parents put me in sports when I was 4, and essentially I never stopped. So being active has always been a part of my life. I can't even imagine not doing that. The nutrition came a little bit later. Of course, you know, when you go to university and you put on those freshman 15 and you start to care about, you know, how you look, that's when I started getting interested in nutrition. But back at the time, you know, what we were told about nutrition isn't quite the same message that we're getting today, right? So you could eat anything as long as it was fat-free. You know, it could be Twizzlers, it could be boxes of cereal, that was fine. And of course, you know, now we know that not to be true.
Yeah.
So over time that evolved. When my daughter ended up getting sick, many years later, that's when I really started to dive deep and took all my courses in nutrition, and that's where the book came from as well.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what was wrong with your daughter with the sickness?
Yeah, so right around the 12-month mark, we noticed that there were some changes in her development. She had been developing, like hitting all her milestones leading up to 12 months of age. She had started talking, she had a few words by then. And then all of a sudden, around that time, things changed and she stopped talking. She stopped making eye contact. She didn't like to be touched anymore. She would go in the corner and play with the cabinet over and over. Wow. She also started losing like her balance and her coordination a little bit. And we didn't know what was going on. And we ended up getting her diagnosed. And they told us that she was on the autism spectrum, that she had PDD-NOS.
Okay.
So for those types of disorders, there's a really long waiting list to get help and to get treatment. And in the meantime, while we were waiting, there wasn't a whole lot I could do other than research. And what I had learned at the time was that a lot of people anecdotally had changed their children's diets, and that had worked for them. And I thought, you know what, the scientific evidence may not be there to back it up or yet, but I have nothing to lose by trying it. And so we put her on a gluten-free, dairy-free, refined sugar-free diet, super nutrient dense, and with the help of a local doctor, we put her on a ton of different therapeutic supplements. And she slowly started to kind of come back out of the fog, as we call it.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah,
That's really
and then it took us about 2 years for her to recover and for all the symptoms to disappear.
So then for you, then was the next step then to take what you had learned and share that with other people? Was that the impetus for writing?
Absolutely. And honestly, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I don't think I would have believed it. The change was so drastic, and it really led me to understand that, you know, we literally are what we eat. And that how important our digestion is and our gut health and how that's linked to basically brain function, immune system health and all of that. And I became so curious that I decided to go get certified and do all my nutrition certifications as well.
Yeah,
Wow.
I found out that I was celiac a few years ago, so I totally understand and completely agree with the fact that you are what you eat, and massive changes can occur when you're on the proper diet. You know?
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
with exercise as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, we didn't think we ate that badly, right? I thought we had a healthy diet, but we weren't choosing nutrient-dense foods to the extent that I realized you have to, especially when you're trying to help someone, you know, go back to optimal health, especially when they're dealing with certain illnesses or diseases. And it made a huge difference for us. And, you know, I mean, I don't know if it would work for anyone else, but we saw a huge change, and I'm so happy that we did it, and our whole family eats that way now. So.
So in terms of writing, like, were you confident, or like at the very beginning, that you could actually write, like you had the words, you had the the power to get that message out there? Like I'm just curious because sometimes we want to do something, but we're not necessarily adept at doing it. But
Right.
did you have a gift of words?
I don't know. You tell me when you read the book. But
Okay, all right.
I had actually minored in English in university.
Okay.
So I had some practice through that, and I always enjoyed writing. It was something always kind of on the side that I would do. I had a blog for a really, really long time, and a lot of the initial blog posts I had written ended up making it into the book in the initial introduction as well. The recipe development, I mean, that was a new skill that I had to learn and quite challenging. I took a course with the Academy of Culinary Nutrition, and that just blew my mind away. And they basically taught you how to create recipes. And so after many, many shots at specific recipes, they ended up tasting good. And I thought, hey, you know what? I should start, putting these on my blog and writing about it and, explain to people how they can eat nutritious and delicious food, that it doesn't have to taste bland or boring, even if you are gluten-free or dairy-free or refined sugar-free.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
And you've probably gotten, I'm sure, a lot of feedback from people who have been privy to your writing, just in terms of how you've helped them, probably, right? In terms of their
Absolutely.
lifestyle and the changes that they would make, and
that's the best part. I mean,
Yeah.
for sure. I think that's why anyone does it, right? Like the response you get, whether you touch people, whether you are able to help them and reach out to them. And that's what I really wanted to do by writing the book, is to reach a greater audience. And I mean, who doesn't want to see their book in chapters? Like, how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
So
That'd
I
be
mean,
pretty
that
cool.
that was really neat.
Yeah.
So definitely a bucket list thing for me.
Do you
so.
sometimes go like out to these stores just to kind of walk by the aisles and see if anyone's
I do.
looking at your book? And
I do sometimes.
go,
Yeah.
oh, I wrote that. Oh, I see it in my
right
book.
here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll like sneak in and sign them sometimes too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Will you really?
And I'll-
Will you really do that?
Yeah, I'll take them off the shelf, put a little signature, and hope people get some pleasure out of that.
So what
that's
other
nice.
local bookstores would we be able to find your books in?
So Chapters at Gloucester carries my book. I know they had it at Barhaven as well at one point.
Okay.
I just don't know what the local stock is like, but most of the Chapters would have it online on Amazon
Online.
and Chapters as well. So
Okay, good to
Nice.
know. And self-published.
yes.
Tell us about that process.
Oh,
I have self-published as well, so it's,
Well, then-
it's different, right?
you probably know it. It's very painful, I have to say. I mean, it's a huge learning process. The writing was actually much faster for me. The recipe development was much faster than the self-publishing, because we did a lot of we had some help with editing. We had someone who helped us, who took the photography, an amazing woman who did all of my photos. But then designing the book, knowing what the layout will look like in print versus what it looks like on the computer, how many times you need to edit it. I mean, there must have been 1,000 different edits that I did, and price pointing and how you describe it, which software to use. I mean, all that, it's crazy. And I'm sure I hope never to have to do it again.
Yeah.
So, having a publisher would be like a dream of mine.
And then you have to promote it. That's another
Yep.
thing too, right? And
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are you doing to promote your book? For the most part?
so-
Like you come on shows like this,
Yes.
and we can show this book, and it's called "Help Yourself to Seconds." Right? It's a beautiful,
Great title.
beautiful book.
you.
I can't wait to read it, and you're going to sign it, right?
I will sign 2 copies, yes.
All right, sweet. So you have a website, so it's on your website as well.
It's on my website.
Yeah.
When we launched, I had an online launch. We had a lot of sponsors as well that contributed people, products that I had used, who I reached out to before the launch and said, look, we'd like some giveaways to help promote this. Did a lot of book signings, many, many hours doing those. And then, of course, reaching out to people in the industry, people that I had studied with, different institutes and academies online, connections I had made, and, cross-promoting their work, my work, again, lots of giveaways, prizes, draws, things like that, so.
I think you said there was something like there's a proper way to write a recipe.
There's many proper ways to write a recipe.
Right. What are the improper ways? Like, how could you not write a good one? I'm just curious.
It doesn't taste good, or you're,
So you're just talking about the food itself,
well, partly, or you're taking someone else's recipe and you're claiming it's yours, right? Things like that. But I mean, those are pretty basic things. There's so many different ways to do it. I mean, some people will literally go and start creating things from scratch. I think if you're a chef, that's a lot easier because you have those skills, you have that, you know which kind of flavors go together, which textures work. I'm not a chef, so for me it was really, going out there, trying a bunch of different recipes, doing a lot of research and seeing, and then going and just, crossing my fingers and just throwing something together and praying that it turned out really well. And if not, if it was close, I'd tweak it and test it a couple more times. Send it out to recipe testers as well, who would give me feedback on what I could improve, people that I had studied with, colleagues of mine, and they were a great source of inspiration and assistance for me as well. So, yeah.
How long have you been writing? When did you start this process?
I would say it's maybe 7 years now, so it's been quite a while. And I haven't done it regularly either. I mean, sometimes, I'm much better at blogging than other times. And so it just kind of depends on what's going on in my life at the time, with my kids, because I have 4 kids, so it's a little crazy.
You have 4 kids?
4 kids.
Wow.
That would keep you busy.
It does. Yeah.
I have 2 and that was enough.
Well, it's definitely enough. It was enough. Yeah.
So now, the writing process for the book, was that something that you just sat down and plowed through, or was it something, again, like with kids, did you think about it and write for a couple of hours one day, weren't really feeling the inspiration, took a break from it, took some time, or like what's your process? Do you get up and, there's some people that get up and from 6 to 10, they write.
Yeah, that's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because it depended so much on the recipe creation, that's kind of where I started. I started creating the recipes and testing them, and things started tasting good. I'd get feedback from people that they really enjoyed them, so I kept going. And then whenever I would create something, of course, usually I forgot to write it down, so I'd have to go back and try and redo it the next day, and sometimes that was successful and sometimes it wasn't.
Right.
And then so I would write the recipes, then I'd go back in and do all the descriptions after I had written them all about, what the benefits were health-wise, or what the flavors were, or when you might want to eat a certain food or smoothie or things like that.
Right.
And then the whole introduction of the book, some of it came from the blog, and then I had to organize that and kind of fill in the gaps that I had been missing, and then that came at the very end. So that was pretty much the process, but no specific timeline. I think I would have maybe been better to do it that way, set aside, 60 minutes a day like a lot of people do, and no matter what comes out, you just write and you commit that time. But because of our schedule, and I teach as well, and I consult with nutrition, and so it's really busy, so I didn't really have the luxury of or maybe I didn't have the commitment to set aside the same time every day to do that. So
work it in when you can,
that kind of
commit
thing.
to it that way.
Yeah,
I know. Writer's block, do you ever get that?
You know what? The only time I feel like I got writer's block was really trying to create the introductions to the recipes, because you feel like it can get repetitive, and you're trying to constantly create a new way to tell people about the health benefits, and that was a bit of a challenge. So sometimes I'd have to take a step back and come back to it a couple days later. So yes, in that sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to reach for my glasses because...
Oh boy.
Okay, so it's very simple. We shoot you a question,
simple.
you shoot us back the answer.
Okay.
And if you can pass this, you can get through anything.
I definitely will not pass it.
Sweet. So when was the last time you skated on the Rideau Canal? Simple.
Last winter.
Okay.
What's your favorite park in Ottawa?
I'm gonna have to say the pirate ship park, because my kids love to play on the play structure. That's so embarrassing.
Okay. Have you ever been inside the Parliament buildings?
Yes.
What is your favorite bar in the Byward Market?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I am probably going to say the Moscow Tea Room, if that counts.
Oh, that's a good
kind of borderline.
choice.
Good
I
answer.
like that, yeah.
Where do you go to be recognized the most in Ottawa?
Oh, nowhere.
Chapters?
Chapters?
Come on, you should say chapters.
You know what? All the staff know me there, so yes, it would definitely be chapters.
What is the last Ottawa restaurant you dined and dashed at?
I've never dined and dashed.
Good for you.
Darn it. Name the establishment that you were last kicked out of.
In Ottawa, I don't think I've ever been kicked out.
That was always the first time, right?
I know, I feel like I'm missing out here. It's
That's
good.
right. It gets better too. What would be your favorite street to streak on?
Oh, Elgin. I've done it.
That's
it's
popular.
A common
Everybody
answer,
wants to streak on Elgin. We're all going to meet up one day, streaking. Yeah. Where in Ottawa was the last place that you were arrested?
Never.
Okay, good answer.
And which area of town did you last go through a ride program successfully?
In Orleans.
That's a common answer too, I
Yeah,
think.
getting onto the highway.
Wow.
All right.
So they go through a ride program, they all drive to Elgin where they get out and streak. So, all right, well, now that silliness is over with. You're working on a third book, is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's a plant-based cookbook.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether it'll be vegan, vegetarian yet, but I'm really intrigued by how people create incredible food that's vegan. Just from a taste perspective and how they put the flavors together and the things that they can create, you know, like cheese made out of cashews. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, I want to really dive deep into that. And learn a little bit more. And of course, you know, plants are the most nutrient-dense foods in the planet, specifically vegetables. So I want to put a big focus onto vegetables and teach people how they can enjoy eating vegetables again.
What do you think the biggest mistake is, or maybe not mistake, but challenge for general overall public with respect to eating? Or
That's
a
a good
misconception, maybe a misconception. Like I've always been told, oh, well, you need to eat meat a certain amount of times of the week kind of thing, you know? Or you need this amount of protein with this amount of carbs, kind of a ratio.
And chocolate, don't forget about this.
Chocolate, yeah, you know?
Probably I would say that a big thing that I still see is people still think that fat is bad for us.
Okay.
It's kind of changing now a little bit, but there's a lot of people that are still scared of fat and of the calories in certain foods, even if they're whole foods. I have a lot of clients that are very scared of nuts and avocados when they first start with me. So that's something that we definitely work on. So that's a bit of a misconception. And I think that another big one is that calories are all that matters. You know, that if you count your calories, and you eat less than you move, you'll lose weight. And if you eat more, then you'll gain weight. And it doesn't work quite that simply, right? Our body is quite smart in terms of wanting to get certain vitamins and minerals, macronutrients. And if it doesn't get those, it doesn't work quite as optimally as we want. And losing weight can be quite challenging because it'll affect your hormone levels and all of those things. So.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about writing fiction or writing a book? You have? Okay, I don't know why I asked that. There's
it's an interesting question.
It came to me, so.
Yeah. I had started dabbling many years ago just for fun, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't get anywhere with it. I just kind of let it go, but it is definitely something that intrigues me for sure.
Yeah. Did you remember what it was that you were going to write?
I do.
Do you want to share?
Full stop. I do.
Is it like a Harlequin romance type of book, or?
Why would you ask me that?
I don't know. I don't know. Because, you know, like once you get into the writing, I find with a lot of people, once they write, even if it's a very specific area, the mind naturally goes to, oh, you know what, I maybe I could try and write that. I could try and write a song, or try and write a play or a screenplay or something.
Yeah.
You just kind of want to, you know,
expand
and test the waters in different areas.
For sure. I dabbled in poetry too in university for a while. I really enjoyed that. I just wasn't that good at it, so.
Can you give us an example of one of your poems?
No, that's like, you know, over 20 years ago.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
No, I mean, I don't remember honestly, so.
So you had a bit of an idea for a television show as well that you're interested in creating.
I do.
Are you able to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. My goal is actually to travel from city to city and kind of go and test out and review the healthiest restaurants, the healthiest places, the best places to work out, the best hotels that are, you know, green, eco-friendly, and make it easy for you to be fit and healthy as well. On
vacation and traveling, you tend to go for, you know,
what they have especially if you're in a
fast
resort.
Food stuff too. You know, you don't really take that extra time to find a local place that might be really interesting.
Exactly. And I find myself Googling all the time. And so I thought if I have it online and there's videos and there's articles and we have the top 10 restaurants in certain cities, the top 10 places to exercise, it's so easy for someone to be able to go and just pull it all up and have it all in one spot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So.
And you mentioned the blog. Are you still actively keeping up the blog as well?
I am, yes.
Yeah? Do you do that? Do you find you do that more consistently? Like, you do that consistently?
Definitely not consistently. Yeah, so, well, that's not true. So I will write consistently, I'll develop recipes consistently, but I'm not great at actually posting them on the blog all the time. So I kind of tend to accumulate a bunch of them, and then I realize, oh, I better post them, and then, you have to tweak it and edit it a little bit, so that takes me a bit longer. The actual writing of the The heart of it, you know, like the main part of it, that's easy. The making it pretty and, you know, the editing part takes a little bit longer.
So it's like you can cook the food, but now you're working on the presentation. How
Exactly.
do I get that in front of somebody?
Yes.
Okay.
And sometimes, you know, the food photography, I have to do that later, so that takes some time.
Do you do
to
that
set
yourself,
up.
or do you have?
I do the ones on my blog, most of them myself. There are pictures from my food photographer, Marianne Rothbauer, and she did all the photos in my book. And another friend of mine, Annie Maron, who's from Ottawa, actually. She did the cookbook cover. So great photographers, and so I use them, and I'm inspired by them to become better myself. And I actually signed up for a food photography course online that I'm looking to take to really improve my photos because they're not that good. So, yeah.
But the food's much better than the photos at the moment.
Tastes much better than the
Tastes much
photos,
better,
yeah. So what's actually interesting is that I would create the recipe, I'd write it out, I'd send it to my food photographer in Toronto. She would actually cook the whole thing, present it, and then photograph it, and then send me the photos. Yeah.
Wow.
That's dedication.
That is total dedication.
How do you know that your meal is going to look exactly the way you said it should by following the recipe? How do you know that?
Trust?
Trust, and she took the same culinary nutrition course that I did,
Okay.
so I knew her food philosophy was similar, I knew her training was similar, and I'd seen some of her other stuff, so I have a lot of trust in her, and of course she would provide me with, 30, 40 photos for each recipe that I could choose from, and kind of pick the one that went with my theme the best and the design the best. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's kind of cool.
yeah.
So, okay, we've dabbled a little bit. You did a little bit of poetry. You tried your hand at a Harlequin romance novel.
I didn't say that.
Possibly.
You said that.
I know.
You said that.
Science fiction? You ever thought about writing science fiction?
No, I don't think that would be my genre.
Okay. Is there something in your mind in the future, something you want to do writing wise? Is there like a big project, like would be your the biggest project you've ever worked on? Food related or not? Like
more cookbooks.
Yeah.
That's where I want to go. I actually do want to write another book that's not a cookbook. It's about more lifestyle, healthy eating tips on how to, set up your life and your kitchen to make it easier in terms of fat loss specifically, because I've done a lot of work with that with my clients. Because I've trained a lot of bodybuilders. I used to compete in bodybuilding myself, so you learn a lot of the tricks of the trade.
Like, I feel like every time you speak, there's a new fact that we're learning.
I know, I just keep
in terms of
dropping
what you do
all
and what you're an expert at.
Yeah.
Well, so I had some experience with that, and that's really fascinating stuff. And, once you learn, the bodybuilders, they've known this for years and years, right? So, there's a lot that you can learn from that. Of course, I try and put a healthy spin on it because not everyone wants to do it in a healthy way, right? And my goal was always to make sure that fat loss is not, too fast, that people aren't, using supplements that have all kinds of bad ingredients in them, that people aren't doing fat burners, that they're not dehydrating themselves, which are very common things for bodybuilding. And so I didn't ever do that with my competitors. I always made sure that they were doing it in a healthy way, even if it meant it would take longer, which ironically usually it didn't. So
Interesting.
yeah.
And of course, and then there's the S word too, right? You want to avoid the S word.
The S word.
What's the
Steroid.
Yes, exactly. And that goes with the whole fat burners thing for sure. But it was always, I wanted to have a natural way of competing for myself and all the others, which is how it should be, right? At the end of the day.
So here's an interesting question for you. Have you inspired anybody else to write anything?
Have I inspired anyone else to write? I don't know. I hope so. I hope I have. I do have a friend of mine in Ottawa, actually. He's also a local author. His name's Luc Blanchard, and he has just finished writing his second book on meditation. He's traveled to India, and we have supported each other a lot. So he'll, ask me my opinions sometimes on his book cover or something he's written, and I kind of do the same back. Yeah. And so we do help each other that way. And just seeing him, I think he published his first book last year, and now his second book's coming out in like a couple months. So, that inspires me, right? So whether I've inspired him or someone else, I'm not so sure, but that is really motivational to see someone who's that dedicated and who loves what they do so much, and the passion, is incredible.
Yeah. So from a local standpoint, are there any organizations that you're associated with?
Yes, so I work a lot with local sports teams.
Oh, okay.
So I'm involved with the Gloucester skating team and the Gloucester Hornets as well. So I've helped with them with their nutrition coaching, done some presentations. I teach some classes like Pilates and things like that. And then I also work with the Canadian fitness professionals, and they have a conference coming up in Toronto. It's called the World Fitness Expo, and I'll be speaking there in a few weeks' time and talking about nutrition, specifically how to outsmart your sweet tooth, which is a big topic for a lot of people, and how to manage pain through nutrition naturally. And then my last one is on food and mood, the gut-brain connection. So
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's so important too. You were talking about your local connections and affiliations to get children involved or youth involved with respect to their food choices and their activity level as well. And I think I had a similar background as you did. I was thrown into sports when I was a kid, and that's, we were on a basketball court or a tennis court or running a track, and my parents were very big on nutrition and made sure that the plate was filled with the proper food groups. But I think a lot of kids or youth just don't have that particular experience. And is that something that you have probably dealt with? And how do you remedy that or get them back on a good track?
I think awareness is really important. Trying to make sure that the parents are there when I'm talking to the athletes is really key. And of course, having the coaches on board, because if the coaches are on board and they help with the reminders as well, sending out emails of proper hydration, proper nutrition, that really helps a lot. So it really kind of takes like a village, right? For sure. And then of course, if the kids have that exposure and they're interested, you have to figure out what's gonna, how they're gonna be motivated to change, what is gonna be interesting to them. So a lot of times I'll do like trivia games with them, and we'll do Jeopardy and nutrition Jeopardy, and we'll ask questions and we'll put them into teams, and they'll have to kind of answer things that are nutrition related, and then we can talk about it as to why the answer was what it was, right? So things like that I think are really helpful. And then in terms of community too, I find being on Facebook and online, there's so many groups now out there that you can join, Women Helping Women groups in Ottawa, local entrepreneurs. That's been huge for me. And if I didn't have that, I definitely would have faltered along the way, because, when you're feeling down and you're struggling with something, getting the book written or publishing it, you post it in one of those private groups and everyone can contribute and give you tips. And that's like been amazing, as much as people kind of put down social media for that thing. It's just been such a godsend for me. So,
you think that's also reflective of the communal spirit in Ottawa? Because I think creatively it's very supportive. I believe Ottawa is very supportive.
For sure, yeah.
For the arts, for writing, for anything like that.
And you've lived in other areas as well, so I don't know if there's experience with what you've had there versus, it's such a small, I feel like it's a small city, with so many great resources.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I find, definitely amongst like the women groups on Facebook, I find there's a lot of support. Obviously, I don't know the other side. You'd have to tell me that, what it's like for men. But I also find that in the holistic health community, there's a lot of, standing on the shoulders of giants, you make me better, let's support each other. The world needs more of this in general. So there's seems to be it's less cutthroat, less competitive that way. And we all want to see everyone do well, because the more of us there are, the better it is for everybody, right?
We say that all the time. You know? Yeah. Your success is reflective of mine.
Yeah, just said that earlier today.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. You ever thought of doing stand-up comedy but just telling food jokes?
No.
Think about it.
I don't think I'm funny.
Think about it. That might be kind of funny.
Could add that to your list of accomplishments.
Anyway, it was again just a random thought. I get those. All right, so now I'm going to get my glasses a second time. Because
you're old.
Okay.
So you can either tell us a really embarrassing story, or you can choose what's in one of these envelopes. Very, very simple.
I'll choose the envelope.
This one?
Yes, that one, please.
Okay, all right. So.
I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous.
Oh, you should be. No. Okay, this is simple. It's a tongue twister. So all you have to do is say the tongue twister 5 times without making a mistake.
Okay, I'll try.
It's right there on the bottom.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. It's very simple.
How many times? 5 times? Okay.
Yeah, really fast.
11 benevolent elephants. 11 benevolent elephants. 11 benevolent elephants. 11 benevolent elephants. 11 benevolent elephants.
Whoa!
Besides the first one, the rest were okay.
The rest
That was awesome.
That was,
I'm
that was pretty good. No prize for this one, but
Oh.
No
but
prize.
but it was a good effort, and
Thank
it
you.
paid off for you. Wow,
Thanks.
that's really cool.
That was.
It was great having you on the show.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So great to
Informative,
meet you.
lots of
It
fun.
was nice meeting you as well. Thank you guys so much.
You're very welcome. Now you're gonna take a couple of seconds,
Okay.
compose whatever you need to do, and then we'll see you in the other room for your presentation.
Sounds good.
All
The
right.
other side.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. I need a burger. Being kind to yourself also extends into the way you live the rest of your life. If you are always putting yourself last, running yourself ragged, and taking on too much without taking time to recover, you will eventually hit a wall. Ignoring your basic human needs, whether it's for love and physical affection, relaxation and recuperation, passion and purpose, joy and happiness, or health and well-being, will catch up to you. It might start to manifest itself in the form of physical symptoms, such as an illness, fatigue, weight gain, or even pain. In the form of emotional symptoms, such as crying spells, withdrawal, emotional volatility, or psychological symptoms such as anxiety or depression. If you continue on this way, these symptoms will eventually become louder and more serious until you have no choice but to listen. The key is to take time to notice these symptoms and these signs before it's too late, and take action instead of sweeping them under the rug and pretending that they don't exist. We can work hard and be successful, but we also need to balance it by taking time to laugh, to love, to play, and to rest. We have created this crazy culture where being busy has become a status symbol, which we wear as a badge of honor because we equate it with success. But here's the secret. Being busy does not mean that you are successful, and being successful does not mean that you are happy or healthy.